just making this video so I can explain probably much faster or answer your question regarding, I guess you want to pick up an S600. I guess I'm going to make the video in this way. First part in the sense of like, if you're wanting to pick up an S600, without avoiding like all headaches, I'll give you some advice and pointers on that. And, or if you want to pick up an S600 that you got some money on the side that you're going to expect to spend some money on. So that way you kind of know what to expect in that type of scenario. So first of all, what I would say is if you want to pick up an S600, the NA, non-turbo, naturally aspirated S600, the 2001-2002 model, without any of the headaches, and you want to do exhaust work on that, the first thing that you definitely want to do is find one that's one owner and a good Carfax, like maintenance history. And you can find that out only with Carfax, not AutoCheck. So try to find ones that's one owner and that person has an extensive maintenance history. That means that he's pretty much taking care of, the car and paid all the maintenance. You can sometimes find one owner with neglect, meaning that some person, even though he's one owner, he's just left the car on his storage because the car became, I guess, a pain, to maintain. So he just let it sit in the garage and just have it worn out. So you don't want to pick up that type of car. I remember when I was looking, I found one in Texas. There was one owner. The guy probably spent an arm and a leg maintaining that. I looked at the Carfax. It had extensive maintenance history. And I was trying to get rid of my Champagne S600 because of some issues to pick that one up. And that never happened and the car got sold. So yeah, first thing, Carfax, one owner, an extensive maintenance history. The second thing you want to look for is, or want to do after it passes that, if you find one that's in good condition, low mileage, is I'd say definitely take it to Mercedes dealership if you can to do PPI inspection. It's basically they do like every little detail inspection on the Mercedes, and the Mercedes dealerships have the diagnostic tool to plug it in to check out if any codes in the past that happened, or sometimes on Carfax you may not see the maintenance history. When you take it to the dealerships, they can tell you all these things have been taken care of when they plug in the Mercedes scanners. So you definitely want to get it inspected. I would definitely put that on top. If you find a car, it looks good, there's nothing wrong with it, there's no leaks or anything, you still want to get it inspected because you don't want to miss things just because visually it looks good. You want to get something that for sure all the internals, the electronics, everything is working the way it should. Now considering these are 2001, 2002 models, you're definitely going to have problems. Like I said, unless the guy maintained it very extensively, you're not going to find those. At least in my quest, I haven't found much. So with those in consideration, if the car looks good, but when you take it to the PPI inspection and they find a lot of issues, walk away. That's only if you want to pick up a car that's not going to have issues. Just walk away, because if you're going to pick one up that's going to have issues and you're expecting a car, or you want to initially purchase a car that you don't want to spend much money on, walk away from those, because you're opening up a Pandora's box. Because all these cars, if they're not maintained well, a lot of issues are going to come through, because Mercedes are heavily dependent on electronics. Everything is run through sensors, sensors after sensors, so many electronics. And once they start going bonkers, it's going to drive you nuts unless you really want to get into it. Pick up the Mercedes diagnostics tool, which is like $800. You gotta buy a laptop with a specific scanner and the software. So it's pretty expensive, but it's about $800, $600, $800. So unless you want to go that route, and if you're good, a little bit of hands-on, you can definitely try that. Now, having said that, I'll mention some of the common problems that you may encounter and what you want to avoid. Basically, there are two main issues. I'm pretty sure if you've read some about it, you probably heard a lot about the active body control. Basically, on these models, they have a hydraulic suspension, and there's a lot of hoses and pumps and reservoirs. All these things end up going bad. So most of the time, if they're not maintained extensively, most of the cases, I would say 80% of the cases, the hydraulic suspension is on the borderline of failing, or some components have failed. So you're definitely going to find most of them out there with failed hydraulic suspension, and people just overlook it, because a lot of times these hydraulic suspension, what can happen is you can have basically the pump not necessarily fail, but can't hold the liquid. The hydraulics leak out of the suspension and goes onto the reservoir, but it's still drivable. Once you start the car up, the car itself will level itself up. So if the car's in that condition, you could pick it up, take a chance, and fix it in the long run later on. But if it's got leak, if the hydraulic suspension, the ABC suspension has leak, you probably don't want to pick one up if it's gonna have a leak, because you might have a really hard time diagnosing where the leak is coming from. Sometimes there's a leak in one place where you have to kind of lift the engine up. So basically you're gonna have to take the motor mounts of the engine off and replace one of the hoses that goes underneath there. That's pretty extensive. Labor-wise, it's gonna cost you a lot if you can't do it yourself. So avoid S600 that have hydraulic leaks. The other thing you wanna avoid is a car that has oil leaks. Any kind of oil leaks, just run away from there. The worst problem that S600 can have, which is basically the notorious oil cooler leak. When you have that leak, if you take it to the dealership is going to charge you between $5,000 to $6,000, maybe a little bit less, but between $45,000 and $5,000 you can find maybe in the dealerships. But independent mechanic shops going to be between $4,000 and $5,000. It's mostly labor. It's $1,000 of parts, and the rest of it is labor, because the oil cooler sits all the way underneath the heads, so you got to take everything off on the top. And there's a lot of intricate stuff with the way Mercedes assembles their engine. If you don't have the expertise, don't even bother taking yourself upon it. Otherwise, you're gonna have to take it to some indie shop that knows how to properly do it, or the dealerships. And like I said, it's gonna be $5,000 to $6,000 job. So avoid a car with any oil leaks. The other is the coil packs. The way Mercedes designed them, it's pretty bad in those years. It's gotten better the latter years. They're pretty expensive. They're 2 coil packs, one per side, and each of them, if you get them from the dealerships, they're about $1,000 to $1,100 a piece. So, and those basically you're gonna get check engine light. So if you pick up a car, it's got a check engine light, I would avoid generally. If you pick up a car with check engine light and they're telling you, oh, it's an O2 sensor or something, don't take their word for it, because you're going to have to, like I said, you're going to have to take them to the dealership, have them plug in with the proper diagnostic tool, not just a regular ODB2 scanner. It's going to say oxygen sensor or something like that. Don't trust those. Walk away. As soon as if you see a car with a S600 with check engine light, walk away, because most likely it's going to be the coil pack, or there's another part called the voltage transformer. That part is $500, so I mean, you can't tell whether it's a coil pack or the transformer sometimes. So like, you're going to pull your hair off trying to diagnose it. So avoid that and walk away if you go to S600 and it's got a check engine light. So those are the common things that I would say avoid. Now that's only if you want to pick up a car that you want to totally avoid any issues on. If you want to pick up a cheap S600 and you're looking at, okay, I'm willing to dump in another $1,000 or $2,000 to maintain it, then I would tell you, look for a car that's going to have probably the check engine light. Like if there's a misfire or something, you could take your chances. The most likely it's going to be either the voltage transformer or the coil packs. So there's a company out there in California. Basically, all you do is, you pull your current coil packs out, ship it to them. They'll replace the individual coils that are bad and send them back to you. Basically, they'll repair it. So you're not paying the full amount, $1,000. They'll fix yours up, and that's like the cheapest option. So yeah, if you want to pick a S600 up that you're willing to do some work on, don't pick up one that's going to have any sort of oil leaks. And also don't pick one up that's going to have hydraulic suspension issues. But pick one up that can have, if it does have like a check engine light, get it diagnosed, make sure what the problem is from like either a Mercedes dealership or one of those independent European auto shops that knows how to work on Mercedes. They're even going to have a hard time telling you exactly if it's the coil packs or the voltage transformer, but it's going to be either or. If it's misfire issues, most likely it's going to be those issues. Anything beyond that, it's going to be small, some sensors failing, maybe the doors. Mercedes sometimes have the way the doors close, like a silent close. Those are small stuff, you can take your time and do it at home, fix those issues. Those are like small issues, but Mercedes generally will have a lot of small issues, because like I said, there's so much sensors controlling every single part of the car. So expect a car that's like almost, more than 15, 18 years old, gonna have a few things not working properly. I guess that's pretty much what I can suggest you. Anything beyond that, like I said, it's probably not worth it. Anyways, let me know if you got any other questions. Thanks.